I was invited, and Debbie was too, to a show at the Lakewood Clubhouse, and it was an arts and crafts show, and we got there early. We did not know each other at that time, and so after I got my booth set up, I started walking around, and she was one of the first people I ran into, and so we introduced ourselves, and just for fun, I put some of my photographs on, you know, coffee mugs, and she bought an Eiffel Tower mouse pad from me, and so that was kind of one of the first little interactions that we had, and I decided to invite her to be in an art show. I think I invited like 4 different artists to join me in a group show at the Art Spoken Gallery, and this all took place back in '06.
And I remember that art show well. We got to visit a lot, and I admired his photography. And being I paint landscapes and still lifes and oil and pastel, and I'm always looking for new landscapes because plein air is fun, but it's not always practical. So I had painted my vacation photographs and my parents' vacation photographs. It's like, oh, well, I had already had the seed in my head planning that I liked your photographs and was going to ask you about that. But it wasn't until the Art Spoken show that I had a pastel display that Bill came up and said, Debbie, what, you could paint my photographs? And I'm like, yes, I've already been thinking that. So that was where we first launched the idea, and said, then after we painted a few, we decided we could call them side by side.
Yeah, that's just kind of came together, fell into place. Oh, the book was several years later, because we did our first art show together in I believe in the spring of '06, and it was called Side by Side. But it wasn't until last year, which was 2010, that we decided to try putting a book together, because we kept the project going, and occasionally we would correspond with each other and decide on a piece that would work for the project, and we would just, so it evolved over time, and then we thought, well, we want to go ahead and put this book together to showcase our work, and it would also be an excellent introduction or presentation to a gallery, which is something that we're thinking about.
We started talking about it in '06, and we would meet for coffee and go through his photography album, and I would look for images that inspired me, and he would talk about whether they were favorites of his or not. So from about '06, and then we put the book together last year, so right. 2010. Yes, that's challenging. I look at his work, and I immediately, or usually I can tell if I'm inspired by a particular piece or not. And then I also think, well, is this an image I would like to paint in oil, or one I would like to paint in pastel? Because, you know, different imagery just is evocative in different ways. So I've done several pastels and several oils, and so it's interesting to look and think about the many possibilities.
And we never know when that spark is going to get lit for a joint piece, because I will sometimes take a trip, or I will just go somewhere with my camera, and when I'm loading the stuff onto the computer and looking through it, I'm thinking, wow, this just came out so cool. I think I'll send it to some of my art friends. And without even realizing it, that Debbie might write back and say, my goodness, here's one that I think I would like to paint. And so there's an element of spontaneity in there, which I think is kind of exciting, because it isn't always planned. It's just like a lot of things in life, you don't exactly know when it's going to happen. So that spark of spontaneity just kind of makes it fun.
I think that is the biggest challenge, is finding an image that I'm inspired by and that he believes is a piece that he considers a showpiece of his. For instance, there are some images that I've painted that I enjoyed, but it seems to be not as unique a photograph to you.
Well, I'll give you an excellent example of that. I have a picture of a lighthouse that I took in Canada, and I thought it was kind of an interesting photograph, but it just didn't seem all that unique to me, but I liked it. And then Debbie's, was that a pastel? Yeah, that was a pastel. it was so gorgeous that I just flat out bought it. So the reason it's not here today is because it's hanging on my wall. It looks so good that I thought, well, gosh, I don't know if I can put my photograph up against that painting, but you just don't ever know how it's going to click. And I have some photographs that I'm extremely proud of, and when she's painted them, I don't know what I'm going to see, because she sees things differently from the way a photographer would. And so when she interprets something and then she finishes it, it's just a tremendous thrill, as well as kind of an honor to have a photograph of mine be turned into a gorgeous painting. It's an awesome feeling. So like her Port Aransas Twilight piece, I've been going to Port Aransas ever since I was a small kid, and the twilight feeling is captured in that piece so well, and I was so happy with the way the photograph turned out. You know, after a whole lot of work to get it just right, get the tones in the sky the way I wanted it to, where it looked natural, because it was a little bit dull in the original photograph. So I spent a whole lot of time turning that into an art piece. And I thought, well, that's about as good as it's going to get, until I saw her painting, and then I thought, wow, now this does make a side-by-side pair. So.
Well, and Bill is one of my biggest collectors. That's kind of a nice compliment. I do. It's the thistles. It's the one behind you. It's a photograph that Bill took that is almost an art piece in and of itself, and I thought it was quite sort of intricate and complex. I thought, how in the world am I going to indicate this and interpret it? So it was just a surprise. Sometimes in your painting you don't know what's going to emerge, and it just came together beautifully, and so I was really happy with that one.
Well, that piece has gotten a whole lot of reaction ever since we put it at the Doherty for the Austin Visual Arts Association members show, and they were up there side by side, and a lot of favorable reaction. One of the things that I really, really enjoy is architecture. Both from an external perspective on the outside of buildings and courtyards and surroundings of buildings, as well as the interior.
I do also love architecture, so we should
I guess we'll have to put that into our
repertoire.
Into our repertoire. There you go. There's all kinds of interesting possibilities there. I guess what's happened to me is I'm thinking, wow, you know, I've been doing this for a few years now. I want to kind of like think out of the box a little bit more and try some interesting, innovative things.
And Lake Austin is inspiring to me. So the views towards town and the views of the 360 Bridge, I love, and I'm already painting those a lot. So that would be a great series to just pick which painting. And the challenge there is trying to mimic the season and the sky conditions.
Yes,
I photograph it almost every day. It's amazing how much one spot on the earth changes every day.